man, yo, I feel like the champion. Oh man, yo, I feel like the champion. Oh man, yo, I feel like the champion. I'm making sure they know me now, know me now, know me now. And I pray they never forget me and made it because they let me make it.
Yo, what's going on, fellas? I'm your host, Novell, aka Do It Groove, aka man, that's just not gonna fly here today. So we're gonna get into this thing as the title suggests. Fellas, stop trying to be a heroic doormat, right? So let's just get right into it. So from birth, young fellas, the youths, are taught to be protectors and providers, right? Steadfast in our willingness to stand between our families and the storm, throwing our very lives into the fray so that the women and children can survive, right? We've all heard that. It's so ingrained in us that we as guys don't even realize that we're being trained to think of our lives as being worthless in the pursuit of being heroic. Now, gentlemen, I'm certainly not saying that we shouldn't protect our wives and children. But the question that I am asking is, what are we getting out of the bargain? Nothing illustrates this men are worthless mentality more than the Titanic. You know, a lot of women, most women look at that, and it's the third up to today. It's the third highest grossing movie of all time. And when you sit and think about what happened, a guy and a girl meet each other on a ship. They fall in love, quote unquote, and he sacrifices himself. He gives the ultimate sacrifice at the end, letting her have the log and floating down to his doom. And the women went crazy on that one. I mean, they loved that one so much that you, as a guy, would just, you're prepared to give the ultimate sacrifice for her. And we're taught this. This doesn't happen overnight, guys. This is years, decades of training that have come from our mothers and even our fathers to a degree. Well, not to a degree, definitely, because they've been taught by their fathers before them and their mothers before them that you protect the women and the children. The women and children must get on first. They must get away first. You need to stand between the wolves and the helpless, because it fosters this mentality that men are more capable and women are more helpless. And that can't be that couldn't be any further from the truth. Women are capable. Women are out here. They're making money. They're doing their thing. And with the whole Me Too / sexist movement that's going on out there, a lot of women don't want that, but most of them do. You have to understand that this is the mentality, or this is the thought process that has been ingrained in us, and we need to break it. And I'll give you some guidelines on not only how to recognize it, but also how to deal with it in a little bit. You see, we've accepted this role for centuries now, and we just don't question it. It is what it is. So you may ask yourself, well, what was the benefit for guys centuries ago, back then? Well, I'll tell you. First off, back then communities were smaller. So taking on the responsibility raised your social standing. You know what I'm saying? You garnered respect and adoration from your peers, which raised the standing or the social standing for your wife and your kids as well. You also became a pillar of the community, and your opinion helped shape the direction of the congregation and the community, because you were an elder, or whatever word you use for it. You were somebody of high value, and your words carried weight. Also, and this is probably one of the biggest ones, because you were considered high value, by extension, so was your family. So when your kids are ready to date, their options are of other high value women in the community, right? So it not only helped you, but it also helped your family to be able to thrive and to be able to continue your bloodline and all of that good stuff. I mean, there were other benefits, but you guys get the idea. Now let's take a look at today's slick fast food style of dating. With apps like Tinder and websites like eHarmony, women have more options than ever. I mean, I say women because, for one, this is a guy's channel, and I'm speaking to the fellas, right? I say women because women are the gatekeepers of sex and reproduction. And I'm not saying that that's what all guys want, but sooner or later, that's what guys want, right? So it used to be that for you to meet people, you had to go to your local bar or church or grocery store, whatever. It made those encounters more precious because meeting someone that you didn't already know from your community that you just stepped out of was somewhat rare. And it was confined to your local community. So what does that mean for us guys, right? Well, we're still expected to be protectors. We're still expected to be providers. But because the dating pool for women has expanded almost exponentially, these traits are now taken for granted. They're also considered a requirement for getting any of her time. And because of how communities are structured now, which means there aren't any communities because you just don't have those Andy Griffith style communities anymore. Because of the way that they're structured, you don't get the respect and the benefits from times gone by, right? So look, fellas, I'm gonna level with you. Unless you have extreme wealth, good looks, or both, if you want any kind of attention from a woman, then you're gonna have to do some chasing. You know what I'm saying? At least to some degree. Look, I get it. But once you get into that relationship, don't let it devolve into a yes, dear situation. Oh, my God. One of the worst phrases I've ever heard is happy wife, happy life. I mean, that puts everything on the guy to just continuously please her so that he can have peace in his home. Fellas, you got to reject this notion and be direct in what you require to be happy. Let me drop a couple of guidelines on you to help to keep this from happening. I was watching a video from another YouTuber called Far From Average. And he said very succinctly that it's in a woman's nature to be indirect with their actions and their speech. They're going to speak subtly and with innuendo. Now, as a man, you need to cut through that with directness. I'll give you an example. If you go to a restaurant and you order a salad, doesn't really matter what salad it is, you just order something, and you phrase it as, may I please have the chicken salad? That is a very indirect way to ask the question of the waitress or waiter. It's almost like you're asking permission. Can I please have the salad? No, you need to speak with directness. You need to speak like a man. You need to say, I'm going to take the salad, the chicken salad, and with a side or whatever, with this drink, whatever. It's subtle, but the difference is clear. One is asking permission. The other one is a statement of fact. And you need to understand that this is how women are going to speak to you. They're going to be subtle. They're going to leave little signs and little hints all around the house or in your briefcase or whatever. As a guy, that's fine. I mean, because it's in a woman's nature to do that. But as a guy, when you're expressing your feelings to her, you need to be direct. You need to tell her, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's acceptable. This is acceptable. This isn't acceptable. This is what I want. And that's going to go a long way for you. You need to be direct with your speech and you need to be direct with your actions. The next thing you need to do is, especially in the beginning stages of a relationship, you need to limit your availability. I cannot stress this enough. A man who is always available to a woman is a man that has no options. Even if your day is wide open, you should deny her access to you sometimes. This might seem like you're playing games, but you need to have some interests outside of her. I don't care. Ride a bike, shoot some hoops, do anything, because if you start, or when you start to cohabitate, you're going to be clawing and scratching for some me time. Best to set the precedent now. Let her understand that you like to ride your bike on the weekend. You like to go shooting with the fellas. I like to hunt. So I let women know that not only do I like to hunt, but I also have certain firearms here that might seem scary to some people, but they're really not. They're really not. And lastly, you need to let her know what is acceptable and what is unacceptable behavior. It's like training a puppy, fellas. The longer you allow a behavior to continue, the harder that it's going to be to break, if you can break it at all. Now, make no mistake, fellas, you're both training each other. But she needs to understand what you will and will not tolerate. But here's the hard part. You need to be willing to step away if she doesn't change. It's precisely the ability to step away that will make you a high value man, because you have options. Now, I'm not saying that you should constantly dangle breaking up in front of her or over her head. That's counterproductive. You don't want to do that, but she needs to understand, and I mean, she really needs to understand that this behavior, whatever that behavior is, will not be stood for. So this was a quick hitter, fellas. I appreciate you hanging in here with me for a bit. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Deuces.